if you woke up in the morning after having a good night's sleep and didn't feel as though you had the weight of the world sitting on your shoulders? What if you had a way of facing life's obstacles and knowing that you had a way to overcome them? That's what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. We all get obstacles in our lives. Some of them can be personal, some can be professional, and some can be emotional. Maybe you're someone who struggles with saying no to people, who often answers yes when you didn't really want to. Maybe in your workplace, you're struggling to keep up with your workload. And maybe you're suffering from anxiety and it's stopping you from having a better social life. Maybe it could be that fear of failure, of self-doubt, of things that you just can't control externally. You see, the way to overcome that is to develop resilience, to be able to adapt to difficult and challenging situations in our lives, to have that bounce back ability to overcome those situations that we get in our lives. You have to be able to be strong enough to withstand the slings and arrows of life, if you like. Think of door-to-door salesmen. They go door to door, knocking on doors, trying to sell their goods, products and services. And 99% of the time, they're faced with a no. And in that trade, they're actually taught to program their mind to think every time you get a no, you're getting closer to a yes. One of the best examples of resilience that I've seen recently is in the UK, in football, our biggest national sport, and it comes in the form of a guy called Eberechi Eze. He's a footballer for Crystal Palace. Now, he hasn't had a straightforward career. As a 9-year-old, he was scouted by Arsenal, put in their academy and joined the club. And he stayed there for 4 years until they decided that at 13, he wasn't going to make it as a professional footballer and they let him go. That didn't stop him though. He looked around and worked around and tried to find another club, and he found Fulham. And he stayed there until he was 16. And they told him they didn't think he was going to be good enough and they were going to let him go. Can you imagine that? Twice since he was 9 years old, football clubs have told him that they didn't think he was going to be good enough. And yet, that didn't stop him. He joined Reading and was released 6 months later. And then he went to Millwall and stayed there for 2 years, and they rejected him as well and said that he wasn't good enough. He went for trials at multiple football clubs until he was 18. And then he was signed for Queen's Park Rangers. Now, he got a contract at Queen's Park Rangers and he stayed at QPR until 2020, when Crystal Palace thought that he may be a good prospect for them. And they bought him. He didn't make his debut though for Crystal Palace until 2023. He was 22 at the time. A year later, he'd played well enough to get his first England cap. And then this year, on the 17th of May, he scored the winning goal in the FA Cup final for Crystal Palace, who beat Manchester City 1-0. And it was the first major trophy that Crystal Palace had ever won. Can you imagine that? He'd started football at 9 and been rejected right the way up through the years till he was 18 before he got his first contract. That's a child, that's resilience at its best. So what does resilience actually do for you? Well, for starters, if you have that inner fortitude to overcome your struggles, it benefits your physical and your mental health. And alongside that, it helps you to build better relationships. And what also happens is that you become adaptable when you have to face challenges. So how do you actually do it? How do you become resilient? Well, the first thing you've got to do is acknowledge and accept that we're always going to face obstacles and challenges, and we're going to have a failure through our life. And it's not something to worry over, because it's something that's just part of your life. One of the keys to moving forward is to set very small goals. There's a saying that goes, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So what you need to do is break those challenges, those things that you're going for, down into little bite-sized pieces, so that you're not going for that big goal, you're going for that little one there, so that when you have a problem, you know that it's only a little one, so it's not so hard to overcome it. And then once you overcome that, you move on to the next one. We're now halfway through the video, and you've already lasted longer than 50% of the people that started watching this when it started. And the tips to come are going to help you overcome your setbacks. Let's carry on. The other thing that we need to do in our lives as we're moving on and will help us with our resilience is to build a support team. Seek out people like friends and family and people who would become, I talk about this all the time, your tribe. Get people around you that are supporting you as you're moving forward and can buoy you up as you face your obstacles, so that you can share your problems and get input to help you as you're moving onwards. But the key is to develop a positive mindset. And there are a few ways you can do that. Do you remember just now I was talking about biting one piece at a time from the elephant to finish it all? Well, one of the keys is, and it's really helpful, is that each little step that you break it down, when you've done it and you've achieved that part, celebrate it. It may be something really small, so go and buy yourself a bar of chocolate. And as you move on, you just keep rewarding yourself with little things along the way, because sometimes if you don't do that, that goal over there is so far away that you lose the will. It seems too big and it will stop you. But once you've developed that resilience and once you've broken down your goals into little bits, then you can move forward. Another thing I've talked about a few times is self-talk. Tell yourself every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. Develop self-talk that buoys you. Of course, you're not going to believe it in the first instance, but the more you do it, the more your subconscious will accept that what you're saying is true. And somewhere along the line, by keep telling yourself that you're good and you're this and you're that, and positively talking to yourself, you'll start to believe it and it will lift your spirits. And the other thing, of course, and I talk about this all the time, is gratitude. Being grateful for the things that you have. That's your starting point. Don't worry about the things that are far away. You're working towards them, but be grateful for what you've got. It may be that you've had health problems and you're now back to normal health. And you can be grateful for that. Be grateful that you've got a roof over your head and food coming in on the table every day. There's lots of things that you can be grateful for. There are those little moments that I talk about. Writing down those little moments where you had a giggle or where it brightened your day up, so that when you're having those moments of doubt, you can just look back on them, remember how good it was, bring the smile back on your face and carry on, because you've had enough success and good things happen to you that your resilience will kick in and take you that next step forward. Don't forget, you have to learn from the setbacks you have of life. And that's a great thing to do, because as you overcome those setbacks, you can learn from them, not make that mistake again, and it makes it just a little bit easier as you're going along. It's still hard because you're still going out of your comfort zone to achieve more than you thought you could. But once you've got that build-up of experiences that you know that you've been through tough things and you've overcome, look at it. Look back. You know there are things that happened to you years ago that you can now laugh at, because although it was a big thing at the time, you now have overcome that and you've moved on and you've learned so much more in the journey between there and here. So look at all the things that you've had happen to you. You are a perfect example of an overcomer because you've done it before. You may not think you have, but just have a look back in your life and look at all those experiences you've had and all those failures and obstacles that you've overcome. You're already a great example. It's just about moving on. So you've got that resilience, you've already overcome it. But the thing is, you've probably forgotten how resilient you are. So looking back over this, you've got to understand the obstacles that you've had. Just remember, you do have what it takes, and all those things that are sitting on your shoulders, you definitely have the resilience inside you to overcome all of them. It just means taking things one step at a time, celebrating each time you make a little bit of a victory, and go towards the things that you want in this life. And if you look over there, there's another video to help you move forward. I'll see you next time.